Quickly, a little bit of background. We did a CEO summit at Harvard a month ago, and we're around 100 of us. Some coaches took some of our best clients, and we're there really talking about how to increase valuation. And these are some of the questions that we're asking, and we had a lot of conversation around this. How strategically raise the valuation of your firm, and some of the key questions we need to make sure we're asking our team. So I'm going to go into some of the questions. I will tell some stories and a little bit of the way we see it, and then we'll come to Q&A at the end of that. If you remember in column 3 of the one-page plan, that's when you talk about your niche and your brand promise and the rest. Verne always says, I want you to tell me what niche you're going to dominate next 3 to 5 years. And you have your big hack, your long-term 10 to 25 years, and then you're going to have to break it in 3 to 5 year chunks. And then you're going to break that in a year and then in quarters. But it's really important in 3 to 5 years to really dominate an industry or a market and said, okay, this is the niche I'm going to attack this year or these 3 years, and I'm going to do it with this strategy. And that's why you have column 3 that we call column 3 is really putting together or connecting strategy with execution. So while we're talking, I want you to think about it in a 3 to 5 year term as an example. And Verne always tells me, Daniel, in your 3 to 5 year plan, I want you to give me your 70 rule. And this 770 rule is give me a niche of 7% of the market that you're going to own 70% of it. And you're going to dominate that niche. I don't care if it's 7%. And guys, Apple, let's talk a little bit about Apple. Apple probably owns like 11% of the computers on the world. And that's enough to be the most valuable company in the world, right? $3 trillion. Apple stayed below 7% of the market for decades, not even years, decades. So with even 7%, if you really have chosen the 7% and you own the 7%, then you're done. And this is the iPhone market. The iPhone, I think they have like 30 or 40% of the market, or even less than 30, but they have 80% of the profits of the phones in the world. Why? Because of the margin that they charge. And as an example, Verne was here yesterday. He spent a day and he came to my house and we spent a day talking about strategy, precisely building our 3 to 5 year plan, a 2026 plan for us. And Verne and I took a day to discuss. And I am a Mac lover. I have my iPhone, my iPad, everything. I'm a Mac. And he's PC. All of it is PC and he hates Mac. So every time we meet, we always challenge each other in our technologies. And he was telling me about his screen of his Samsung, and he was bragging about his Samsung. But I told him, hey, it's a better phone. Why don't you buy an iPhone? And he said, Daniel, just the margins are so big that just knowing that they're having such a big margin, I don't like it. That just as a principle, right? And he said before the Droids were not that great phones, so they're really good. I don't care that much. Now I'm used to, and I use everything Mac, I use everything Microsoft. I'm very happy in my platform. So that's the conversation we're having. But what I'm telling you is, it doesn't matter what you choose. What matters is that you choose a niche. And I want you to choose a 7% of the market that you're going to own at 70%. And that's how you need to start this conversation and this mindset. All right. So let's go into some questions. A little bit, if you haven't been a session with me in the past, I'm the CEO of Growth Institute. Verne and I started this company around 12 years ago, precisely because I've been a coach for 15 years. I've been a user of scaling up for 25 and 23 years. And we needed to find a way to get this methodology, these tools, for more companies around the world, and in a format that it was more efficient to get more companies around the world. And that's how we designed the Growth Institute. These are some of the companies I've been associated with. But every day, like you, I wake up figuring out how I'm going to grow my business, how do I'm going to hire the best team members, how do I going to grow my team, and really focus on bringing more value to the market. So as an example, yesterday, Verne and I spent over 10 hours talking about strategy for the next 3 and 5 years. And it was a really big discussion. There was things that we did not agree. And then with the conversation, we agreed in way more. By the time he left my house, we were very aligned on what we need to do in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're going to talk about the 6 key questions to build a great strategy, elevate your mindset, and really start detecting opportunities and understanding where you're going to go in the next 3 to 5 years. And of course, some space to discuss, have questions at the end, and have a conversation around the community. The MBD is all about a community. First, who's your buyer persona? Who's your who? The first thing you have to ask is, who's your who? Who's that 7% of the market? And by the way, At Growth Institute, we know there's 57,000 companies around the world. That's it. If you ask me who's my who, 57,000 companies. And we really almost know them by name and last name. We know who are those 57,000 companies. How many companies do you think are in the world? Just the US has 32 million companies. We know by name and last name 57,000. That's our market. Are we going to get some around that? Yeah. But where we're going to spend our money, where we're going to spend our focus, and the ones we're going to talk to are 57,000. That's it. We know. We just need to have a dent in that industry. And if we get 2% of that market, we could do great. Our job is, how could we get 50% of that market? But we know it by heart. We know our 57,000 companies want to serve. So first, understand who's your buyer persona, demographic, lifestyle, personality, goals, objectives, mindset, all that. Then what's the job to be done? What are you going to give of value to the market? And if you haven't seen the video by Clayton Christensen, please go and see it. It's called The Milkshake. What's the job of the milkshake, or jobs to be done? It's a video that he tells a story of a milkshake. And I'm going to tell the story, and then I'm going to go to my logo to explain why we do what we do and how we do what we do. So he tells a story that he's hired by this restaurant company, fast food chain company, and they said, hey, we want to increase the sales of the milkshakes. And we've surveyed our clients, and we tell them, what do you want in the milkshake? And they all said, I want it sweeter or chewer or whatever, and they tell me what they want. We do that, the revenue doesn't go up. So please help us understand how to raise revenue on our milkshakes. So he goes with his team to the restaurant, and whoever buys a milkshake, they take a note of who bought the milkshake, if they were men or women, age, if they were alone or with people, what time of the day. They get as much data as they can of the people that bought a milkshake. And they were expecting, as an assumption, that it was going to be family buying it for the kids at dinner. That was their assumption. And when they come to the restaurant, they realize that most of the milkshakes sold were in the morning before 8 a.m. by a single adult driving on the road. And they were like, what? We're expecting families and kids, and now we have a single male or female adult buying a milkshake on the drive-thru. So the next day, they go outside of the drive-thru, and whoever buys a milkshake, they stop the person and said, let me ask you some questions. And they asked, what's the job to be done? Why do you hire the milkshake? And people said, like, what do you mean, why do I hire the milkshake? And say, okay, if you did not come today to buy a milkshake, what do you buy in other days? And they say, well, we buy a sneaker sometimes, but the sneaker, it takes me 3 seconds to eat it. It's a lot of calories. I'm not full, so I feel guilty when I buy a sneaker. And sometimes I buy a bagel, but I'm trying to drive and I'm trying to put the cream and the jelly, and it falls and it crumbles, all the crumbs in my clothing. So by the time I get out of the car, I have all the crumbles and I don't feel good. And when I'm driving, I need to drive with a knee and then put it down. It's very complicated. So I don't like to do bagels. Then I do donuts. And donuts are great. I love the donut, but I eat it very fast. I don't get full, or I have to eat a ton of donuts to be full. And then my fingers all gooey with all the sugar, and I grab my driving wheel and I get all the sugar in the driving wheel. So I don't like but the milkshake is perfect for this. So I get a milkshake. I could drive with one hand, have my milkshake on the other one. When I drink a milkshake, I'm full until 12 o'clock during the day. And it takes me 20 minutes to eat it. So I'm in the driving on my office doing the commute. I'm entertained around 20 minutes while I'm getting my milkshake, and I'm having sweat and all that. And they explain why the milkshake is the best to what they do or what they want. And what they want to have a breakfast that they could eat while they're driving that will keep them full and they don't feel guilty when they have it. So once they understand why people were buying milkshakes, then it's very easy to understand what to change on the milkshake and what to advertise on the milkshake, right? And when they did that, sales went through the roof.